There's a bill before committee in Ottawa right now that would, in theory, prevent kids from accessing porn online. It's got strong support from some.
And would a future government of yours do this?
Yes.
The pornography online is not the Playboy centerfold of the 90s. It's graphic, it's violent in nature.
But there's a lot of criticism too, and some big questions, like how do you actually do that without some serious privacy concerns?
How these sites are going to be verifying the age of their users is a big unanswered question. Who's going to be collecting this data, and what happens if that information gets out?
And now, the bill has one of the most used porn sites in the country, threatening to block access entirely.
Pornhub, the most viewed porn site in the world,
which averages 115 million visits every single day. That's more than Netflix or Amazon.
According to 2023 data from Pornhub, Canada ranked 9th in the world for visits to the website. Pornhub is also owned by a Canadian company, and it's faced increasing scrutiny over the years. A few years ago, the New York Times published an investigation asking, why does Canada allow this company to profit off videos of exploitation and assault? That story detailed an extensive account of rape, assault, and material featuring children on Pornhub, and it got a lot of attention, even made its way to Parliament.
Canada is home to a company that has been accused of hosting child pornography, revenge porn, non-consensual acts that have destroyed lives. It is something our committee needs to take very seriously.
In response, Pornhub removed millions of explicit videos and promised better oversight of its content. But the backlash continued.
Why did it take 6 months to get it down? Why was it kept up there when you know this is a criminal activity?
If there was a time when the content was up there, it would be taken down as soon as we were made aware that it was against our terms of service.
One of the concerns raised over and over throughout all of this was about how easy it is for young people, children, to access this kind of content, which brings us back to today.
The House of Commons is set to study an independent senator's bill that would require Canadians to verify their age to access porn online.
This bill originated in the Senate in 2021, and it says in its title exactly what it's proposing. It's called an act to restrict young persons' online access to sexually explicit material. It argues that for young people, consuming sexually explicit content is linked to serious harms, like addiction, gender stereotypes, and can shape their attitudes about harassment and violence.
Children as young as 9 are accidentally being exposed to this material, not even getting into the teenage space where they may be actually seeking it out.
The proposed law would require websites to verify users' ages before they can access sexually explicit content, and it would penalize sites that don't comply, with fines ranging from $250,000 to $500,000.
And if you are seen to be in breach of the law, the government can go to a court, and there can be a court order to see that your material is blocked.
The bill recently passed through both the Senate and the House of Commons, and now it's going before a committee to study it. One of the big problems or tasks with trying to solve is how to actually verify someone's age, and that might be easier said than done.
But the main question that has not been asked, that has not been answered, is how would you verify a user's age on these kind of sites, and how would you do it in a way that would keep Canadians' private information safe at the same time as respecting the charter-protected right of freedom of expression?
All of that ambiguity has privacy advocates on edge, some arguing that, yes, this is an important moral pursuit, but the implications of a bill like this becoming law could be problematic.
There's concerns about, does parliamentarians want to see these individual sites themselves, adult entertainment sites in large part, collecting the personal information of data? We've known from data breaches and data hacks that when sites, be it public, be it private, collect users' information, that they become vulnerable. And what happens if that information gets out?
Even some of the politicians pushing this bill have said they're uneasy with the idea of individual websites collecting personal data. So what are the other options? Could there be a third-party verification system with government involved? Well, that's how it's working in Louisiana.
New law is aiming at protecting our children in Louisiana, and it requires age verification on adult websites.
That law requires that if more than a third of a website's content is pornographic, a user's age needs to be verified. So some sites, including Pornhub, started using something called LA Wallet. It's kind of like Apple Wallet, but for your government-issued documents. So your fishing and hunting licenses, vaccination records, and yes, your ID. LA Wallet essentially scans those IDs and then uses that info to create a digital license. The company says this system enables it to send a simple yes or no as to whether a person is over 18 to a site like Pornhub, without sharing specific information like birthdays or addresses. But privacy experts point out any system like this still requires a government to partner with a private company to collect and store those IDs.
Bear in mind, we've got the government dictating through this law what kind of technology would have to be used. I think people are going to say, hold on a second. Once we dig a little deeper into where the technology is at, we've got real concerns.
On the other hand, there are a growing number of U.S. states passing similar age verification laws without a system in place for how to do it. And in response, Pornhub is just blocking access to its content in those places to protest what it calls unfair enforcement of these new laws. Now the company's warning that that could happen in Canada too.
Because one of the points that Pornhub made to me is that they are not going to be collecting the private information of their users. That is just something that they are not willing to do as a company. And the owners of Pornhub feel that this will not keep children safe, but what this is going to do is potentially push children and young people who are looking to access this material to more darker, perhaps kind of seedier, more nefarious places of the internet that are not willing to follow this rule.
Some argue there could even be a constitutional challenge to the bill because of just how broad it is.
The scope of this legislation goes far beyond the Pornhubs of the world, even includes search engines like Google, social media companies like X or Twitter. All could be scoped in and required to engage in age verification as well.
Canada's bill doesn't lay out a threshold rule like Louisiana did, meaning even sites that have one piece of explicit content could get swept up in this legislation.
Because it applies to any site anywhere in the world that simply makes available this content, so scopes in all these other websites, I think that's where a lot of the concerns are going to lie.
This is where it raises the freedom of expression concerns about, are there legitimate material, lawful material that Canadians are going to potentially lose access to because of this legislation.
On top of all of these concerns, even if this bill passes, there's no guarantee it would stop young Canadians from accessing explicit content. Because VPNs, or virtual private networks, which essentially hide your location, are getting easier to access. And they're perfectly legal.
There's also some concerns about legislation like this and whether this legislation is truly about kind of keeping kids safe and shielding them from this material, or if there is a larger goal of, is it so bad if a Pornhub or if sites like this did get blocked in Canada?
Most Liberal MPs voted against this bill because they're working on a similar bill to address the same issues. But the NDP, Bloc Québécois, and Conservatives all voted in favor of sending it to committee. That committee is expected to hear from a range of experts over the next few months before making any final recommendations.